अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। चैतन्यं सर्वगं सर्वं सर्वभूतगुहाशयं यत्सर्वविषयातीतं तस्मै सर्वविधे नमः। So we are in chapter 6, and in the last class we saw how one attains happiness by not owning up unhappiness. So to become happy, you do not need to be doing anything special, because happiness is the swarupam of one's own true nature. So jnataiva atma sada grahyo jneyam utsrujya kevalaha aham ityapi yad grahyam yapeta asamam hi tat. Two people joining. So here there are two types of knowers which is discussed here. Ahankara is the knower number one. So the first knower by which everything is perceived. So Ahankara is like the secret person who takes identity of the Atma and masquerades. And this Ahankara is the one which makes us do things. So this is the relative I, not the absolute I. So the relative I is the one which is borrowed existence from the Atma, and this is the one which makes us do all the karmas, and because of the doership comes into existence, we undergo the punya, papa, phalam, etc. Or we undergo the pain and pleasures. The real Atma, the second knower, is called knower number one, and this knower, he is free from attributes, or it has got no gunaha, no form. So because it has got no form and it has got no attributes, nothing really can affect the Atma. So punyam, papam, or pain and pleasure, right and wrong, is not applicable for the Atma. Thereby Atma is always akarta. So Ahankara we saw is a temporary dress, or like a temporary dress which is worn, and with this dress it's enjoying existence. So we've seen this in the last class. Just want to see the Bhashyam, if there's anything in there. So, jnate atma sada grahyam. So, when the Atma is known without the attributes, so when the Atma is known without the attributes, jneyaha utsrujya kevalam. So, then the jneyam means the known. So, jnanam, jneyam, knowledge and the known. So, the known is the objective world. So when jneyaha utsrujyaha, so utsrujya means that which rises. So the objective, the mithyatvam of the objective world arises, and it is known through the presence of the Atma. So without the Atma or without the consciousness, there is nothing can be perceived, because all the jadatvam or the objective world has got no independent existence. They don't enjoy existence of its own. So they're called mithya. So utsrujya kevalam, jneyaha, utsrujya kevalam, aham iti api yad grahyam. So grahyam means what? Not grasping. See, grahya means actually grasping. But Atma cannot be grasped. Atma, it means what? Ahamiti api grahyam means when the Atma is known. So here you should take the word grahyam as not grasping, because Atma is not an object to be grasped. So we saw also agrahyam, adrishyam, apanipadam, agotram, avarnam, achakshuhu, ashotram. So all of these are in the Mundaka Upanishad we have already seen before. So there also agrahyam is mentioned here, because that which cannot be grasped. It is not an object of knowledge to be held on to. So ahamiti api yad grahyam vyapeta anga samanahi tat. So vyapetaha means cut off. So angaha means limb. So when a limb is cut off, you still continue to exist without the limb. So previously you were a complete person with all the limbs. If a hand is chopped, right, now you are called a man with one arm or a woman with one arm. So it does not make you disappear from the world completely. So only the attribute has disappeared, but you continue to exist. The same example is the anga samanaha should be taken as the first one. Chitva tyaktena. So the first verse we saw, same way you have to take it. So the example is given here as just a corollary here. Right? Chitva hastena tyaktena. The hastam was talked about here. Here in talked about here is vyapeta anga samanaha. So anga means any part of the body is cut off, not just hastaha, except in the head, of course. If you cut the head off, you cannot do anything. But any other part of the body which is there, even if you cut the head off also, if you understand, have jnana, then you continue to exist as consciousness, not a physical body. That's what he's trying to say here. Okay. So let's go to number 5. Yavanyasyadi amsho yaha, yavanyasyadi amsho yaha, sasvatto anyo visheshanam, sasvatto anyo visheshanam, vishesha prakshayo yatraha, vishesha prakshayo yatraha, siddho siddhaha chitraguhu yatha. So chitraguhu yatha. So siddhaha chitraguhu yatha. So the chitraguhu yatha is a story. I think I told you last class, was it? Did I mention? And we'll just summarize, doesn't matter. We'll go again. So yavan syat idam amshaha means, so yavan means up to that point. Up to that point, idam amshaha is there. So amshaha means this part is there. Saha swataha anya visheshanam. Then vishesha prakshaya yatraha. So see, prakshayaha, kshayaha means that which is destroyed, that resolution. And prakshayaha means total resolution. So shayaha means resolution and prakshaya means total resolution. Or become nirvisheshaha. See, swataha anyaha visheshanam. So when this amshaha is known, or when this particular aspect is known very clearly, then the visheshaha, the attributes are removed. The attributes are no longer there anymore. And he illustrates the example with the saying called Chitra Guhu. See, Yatra Siddhaha Chitra Guha. So Chitra Guha is a name of the person who is Chitra Guha, or Guhu means the cow. And Chitram means varieties of cow. So Chitram means variety and Guhu means the cow. So a person had a lot of varieties of cow before. Different types of colors of cows, Jersey cow, brown cow, black cow, all of them he had. And before he had a cow, he was known by a name called Devadatta. Take an example. So he had a name called Devadatta. Now, because he now has acquired all these different types of cow, and the people who were calling him Devadatta before, now see him as a person who is a cow herd. So he is now associated as Chitraguhu. So they forgot this name called Devadatta. Now they gave him a new name called Chitraguhu. But for the person who is Devadatta, whether he call Chitraguhu or Devadatta doesn't matter. If he takes himself to be a cow herd, if just by somebody calling him the name of the person, and you call him Chitraguhu and you turn back, which means that he has now associated his identity from his own true nature of called Devadatta to Chitraguhu now. Whereas if somebody calls him Chitraguhu, if he doesn't turn back, that means he has still not identified himself with the herd of the cows. So in the same way, when the Ahankara and Atma also like this. So the Ahankara is a name, is masculine as a name, and when somebody calls you your name, you turn back. But when you call you some other name which you have known, if you do not know about it, do not turn back. So same thing says here that anybody who becomes qualified, so qualification, a name is a qualification, a title is a qualification, a status is a qualification, position is a qualification. See, in today's class also the children came to a class and they asked me, what do you call? Some people call Shankarji, some people call Acharyaji, some people call Guruji, some people call, Mr. Shankar, some people call Sir. I told you, it doesn't matter to me what you call, as long as you come to the class and learn, that is important for me. It doesn't really matter what you call, because I'm the single person, but I got 5 different titles or 6 different titles, and I do not become multiple just because somebody calls me by different names. It is only one person multiplying as many. So as long as you don't get carried away by the names, etc. Same with Bhagavan also. So Bhagavan is only one. And there are 1,000 names of the Bhagavan. And the 1,000 names of the Bhagavan also has got different attributes. So can we worship the Bhagavan in that form? Yes, it is worship in the form as an object. But all of the objects which are there, the names, is collapsed to only one entity. So that is what is saying here. And as long as we understand this philosophy that there are many millions of objects are here, all of the objects in this world are coming from only one source, which is the existence of the Atma. So we'll see next chapter also. He makes it very clear that how all the objects of the universe are appearing only in front of the buddhi only. So the object has to come in front of the intellect. Then only the object is visible. If the object is not available for perception in the buddhi, then the object is not available for recognition. So you can only perceive things which is in the perimeter of the intellect. Okay? The physical body also is within the perimeter of the intellect. That is why you are able to see this is the body, and this is the tree or object, etc. So the intellect has to come first. Then only it is available. Anything which is beyond intellect, the Atma is beyond intellect. You cannot perceive it. You cannot know it also. Because that is something which is beyond recognition, so you cannot know it. So people sometimes mistake it as not being there also. So, but the Shastram says that the intellect itself is powered by the Atma, the consciousness. And this is the main reason of the mistakes committed in perception. Right? So here, in the Chitra Guhu, the Ahankara is like colored cow, and it comes with different colors. So the Ahankara which you see here is colored cow. Same example also in the Ras Leela, when Krishna was dancing with the gopis. The gopis are seen by the Ajnanis as Krishna enjoying with many women and having a great nice time. So they are also jealous that how come this young boy, is playing his flute, and there are thousands of gopis dancing to his tune, and they are just mesmerized. They surrender everything. They do not even know what they are doing. That is from Ajnani's perspective. The gopis were seen as physical bodies. But for the gopis themselves, for the gopikas, they were not different from Krishna because they were only his thoughts. So the gopis were thinking that they are not gopis at all. They are only thoughts of Krishna manifested in them. And that is why they were not able to even understand why people are talking like this. They are not even connecting with people who are of this nature. So including, when Radha also sees, oh, these people are, you're leaving me, and I'm your wife, I'm your lover, and you're leaving me and dancing with these people. Radha also could see that I'm different from these people initially. So when questioned, he says same thing. He says, why do you say that I'm different? I'm very far away from you. I'm always near you. It is because when you see me as a form, then I'm different from you. But when you see myself in you, then there is no difference. So as long as you have identity with the physical body, the physical form, or the objects, you will always have a difference of opinion, and you will be different. And you'll always have this view that I'm different and everything is different. So the Ahankara likes this. The Ahankara likes this, and it wants to continue its existence and merry-go-round as long as you don't control this Ahankara or know the Ahankara. So here also the Chitra Guhu, the cows, is referred here as the multiple number of colors of cows which is there. And the Ahankara is represented as the multiplicity of that. So we also got the Ahankara, and with this Ahankara only we are seeing multiple objects, different types of people, different intellects, etc. And as soon as we resolve the Ahankara, right, we understand what the Ahankara is. Oh, it is only nothing but only a dress, which I will have to change tomorrow, or the dress will not be there tomorrow. Then all the other objects also disappear along with that. It loses its existence. So all the objects, etc., collapse into the Ahankara, and Ahankara you resolve, thereby there's no more Ahankara left. So Ahankara also gets dissolved in consciousness. Thereby you are a free person. So there is no Kartritvam and there is no Bhoktritvam. So you are free. That is what was said in that verse number 5. Then verse number 6. Idamamshu ahamityartaha, idamamshu ahamityartaha, tyajyo natmeti panditaihi, tyajyo natmeti panditaihi, idamamshu ahamityartaha, tyajyo natmeti panditaihi, aham brahmeti shishtamsho, aham brahmeti shishtamsho, bhutapurvagate bhavet, bhutapurvagatir bhavet, idamamsho ahamityatra, tyajyo natmeti panditaihi, aham brahmeti shishtamsho, bhutapurvagatir bhavet. So idam amshaha aham iti atraha. So idam means these objects, and idam also includes the physical body also. So idam does not mean only the objects outside of you. Idam also should include the physical body also. This also is idam. That also is idam. Right? So when I say idam amshaha aham iti atraha. So when I say aham, it includes the I, or the relative I, and has got all this, the sthula shariram, sukshma shariram, karana shariram, chidabasaha, and atma. So the 5 things are included in the I. So when I say aham, it means it includes sthula shariram, the gross body. Correct? So whenever you say I, aham includes many things. And Shastram says there are 5 things that be included. Sthula shariram, the physical body. Then sukshma shariram, the subtle powers which are there. The karana shariram, or the causal body. Avidya is for the causal body. Right? So we got Ajnanam also in this. Then chidabasaha. So chidabasaha is the infusion of the Atma into the mind, and this connection between Chit and Atma, chidabasaha. So the one which gets illumined, the mind gets illumined due to the association with the Atma is called chidabasaha. And then there are the Atma. So these are the 5 that comprises the I. So in all of the 4, so if you look at Sthula Shariram, Sukma Shariram, Karana Shariram, and Chidabasaha, one can know what it is, because it is an object of knowledge. See, Sthulam also is known to you. Sukshma also is known to you. And Karana Shariram also is known to you because of avidya, ignorance is there. And Chidabhasa also is known because through the infusion of the connection between the mind and the Atma, intellect, buddhi also is known to you. So with the intellect only, with this, you are able to perceive all these different things. So these are all known to you. But the 5th one, the Atma, is not known to you. That's why it says, na Atma iti. So all the 4 previous ones, excepting the Atma, which is Sthula Shariram, Sukshma Shariram, Karana Shariram, and Chidabasaha, is na Atma iti. So if you look at the verse there, it says here, see, na Atma iti panditaihi. See the word? Na Atma iti panditaihi. See, idam amshaha aham nityartaha tyajyo. Tyajyo means when you leave. So tyajyaha iti panditaha. So the word is tyajyaha iti panditaha. So all of the, out of the 5, if you are able to eliminate the Sthula Shariram, Sukshma Shariram, Karana Shariram, Chidabasaha, 4. How? By negating, by tyajyam, by understanding that it is not the Atma. Because in the presence of the Atma only Chidabhasa is known. Is it correct? The presence of the Atma Chidabhasa is known, and due to Chidabasaha only the Sthula Shariram is known, and Sukshma also is known. And Karana Shariram is the cause of the avidya. So the Mula Vidya is there, Mula Vidya is there, which is the root cause of everything. So Prarabdha Karma we already know, we are going through that. So the Karana Shariram is there. So na Atma iti. So these 4 should not be taken as the Atma, even though they appear together. Atma is distinct from everything else. Even though it is not distant from everything, it is distinct. See, they are all tied together. So you cannot segregate everything physically. You will have to only separate them cognitively by understanding each of them by putting a value. Okay. So by negation. See, Upanishad or the Shastram does not give you direct knowledge. It doesn't tell you directly this is what it is. It will only give you indirect knowledge by pointing out what it is not. So one has to arrive at the truth by arriving the principle of what it is not, then you arrive at what it is. See, if it tells you this is what you are, suppose if it tells that you are Aham Brahmasmi, you are Brahma, then you will ask the question, how do I know I am Brahma? Just because you are saying Aham Brahmasmi, I cannot take ownership as Aham Brahmasmi. So one has to understand what Aham Brahmasmi means by arriving at what is not Aham Brahma. Correct? So one has to arrive at the Nityatvam of everything, removing one by one, using the words of the Upanishad. The words of the Upanishad, the words of the Shastram reveal the essence. And it says that you are this. Example, when you say the Brahman is Agotram. This example, in the Mundaka Upanishad, Agotram is there. Or Apani Padam is there. Avarnam. All these things are given there. So the words are given to understand what is not. So when you say Agotram, it means it has got no Gotraha. It has got no lineage. So we should apply to say whether we have lineage or not. So we have lineage. We say that I am from this so-and-so lineage. My forefathers, my grandfather, my so-and-so people. I am from this Kulaha. I am from this ancestral family. All the things you are able to let. But what our Shastram says, that you are not, you are Agotram. So by taking ownership of Agotram, you are Tyajyaha. You are saying that I am removing this. So Tyajati means removing or by negating. So by negating that, you arrive at Na Atma iti. Right? So you'll have to use the words and then use the words to understand what other objects are not. So you remove one by one, all of them. So Avarnam, Achakshuhu. So Brahman, Atman doesn't have any eyes. But we have physical eyes. So when we have physical eyes, this eyes is not the Atma. These ears are not the Atma. The power of touch is not the Atma. So all of them, you have to remove one by one, one by one, one by one, and arrive at. That's why it says Thulaha. So physical body has to be removed completely. Sukshma Shariram has to be eliminated. Karana Shariram has to be eliminated. Even Chidabasaha, the mind which is also has to be eliminated. See, with this mind only we are able to do so many things. And even the mind also has to be resolved. Then only that which is remaining is the Atma. That's why idam amshaha aham iti atraha. So idam amshaha means this amshaha and aham iti atraha. All of the aham, including the aham also, this particular chidabhasa and also idam, all of them has to be na atma iti. So you have to understand it is not the Atma. And tyajyahi iti panditaha. So the panditaha means what? So pandita means not the person, well-read person. So panditaha means pandityam, or person who is well, is a jnani, a dhiraha. So you can use the word dhiraha also, a very good word. So dhiran, dhiraha, panditaha, munihi, all these are jnani, they are all words, same words. So panditaha means wise people. So wise people are one who are able to negate this tyajyaha by removing all the players of personality, the panchakoshas, the manaha, buddhi, ahankara, all of them they are able to remove, negate them one by one, one by one. And what is left is aham iti shishta amshaha. ahamiti shishta amshaha. So if you see here, the second line, aham brahma iti shishta amshaha. So shishta amshaha means what? Shishta remainder. So shishtaha means remainder. So the remaining part after giving up is what is remains is called Brahma. So if you look at the verse now, you'll see that. See, aham shishta amshaha Brahma iti. So you should, when you read the word, you should read like this: aham brahmeti shishta amshaha, aham shishta amshaha Brahma iti. I mean, after you remove all of them, after you negate all of them, all the four different things which are removed, then what is remainder? Shishta amshaha is Brahma, is Idam, this is me. This is what is the real me. There is nothing else here other than me. Then Bhuta Purva Gati Bhavet. So Bhuta Purva means what? It is because of the previous association. Now there is a question from the Purva Paksha. So this you are clear, right? This particular thing you are clear so far? Okay. So see, the same thing is kept again in everything. So the repetition is there because the Upanishad teaches them in only one way, by the art of negation. So by removing all the layers of personality, only you will be arriving at the other truth. So you'll have to keep on removing all one by one, and coming at the truth. So now there is an objection from the Purva Paksha, which is not in your textbook, it is in the Bhashya, it is there. So you say, aham idam sarvam is Brahma. So there is a Mahavakyam called aham idam sarvam. Right? It's a Mahavakyam. He is Brahma. So why does the Mahavakyam states only aham brahmasmi and not idam brahmasmi? Logical question. So when you say aham idam sarvam is Brahma. So aham idam sarvam is Brahma. So why does the Mahavakyam? This is a Mahavakyam. It is a statement. And the Purva Paksha or the person who is sitting there is a well-read person. It's not that he's some dumb person sitting there. He reads text, he understands what people are talking about, then he'll pick up some point, something which is of, he thinks is contradicting or is not sure about what it is. This is the Purva Paksha. And he says that your Mahavakyam states this. Then why you are saying aham brahmasmi? Why can't you say call idam brahmasmi? This is the question. So the answer given is in that verse called Bhuta Purva Gati Bhavet. See that word Bhuta Purva Gati Bhavet? That's the answer which represents the question from the Purva Paksha. So what it means, Bhuta Purvaha means because, see, when I started my journey of studying Vedanta, see, when I started studying my journey Vedanta, I didn't know I am Brahmasmi. Is that correct? I did not know. I only know Idam. I only know I am this physical body, I am Ahankara, I am only this. So I only know this much. So this is where I started. That's why Bhuta Purvaha. So Bhuta Purva means previous. So I started because of a previous association with this knowledge. Right? And when I am starting to study Vedanta, I am working on Ahankara. So I am working on this concept or the 5 elements we talked about just now. What are the 5 elements? The Stula Shariram, Sukshma Shariram, Karna Shariram, Chidabhasaha and Atma. So this is what we are studying. The whole of Upanishad is studying, or Vedanta is understanding this. What is Stula Shariram? What is all these things? The cause of that. So from all of them, if I remove the four, then I became Nirvisheshaha. Then I become Brahma. Right? So I became Brahma. So because I started a journey before, because I started a journey in my earlier life, or very beginning when I started studying Vedanta, I used the word idam to represent this. And it is only a word which I'm indicating to, it doesn't mean anything because it is just a purva, bhuta purva gati. So it is my past association which is making me say this. In reality, it is not what I am meaning to say here. Right? So I can call myself Brahma as well. Right? So I can call myself as anything what I want, but in my heart I know who I am. So you can use the words. See, you can say word as idam. You can words idam as aham. All of them, aham, idam is resolved in Brahma, correct? As I told you the word Chitraguhu. If somebody calls the word Chitraguhu, you are a cow herd. How does it make a difference to him? You can call the person any name what you want. See, if a Vedanti is going on the street and somebody is calling him, hey, saffron group person, turn back. Or hey, so Swamiji, turn back, somebody. The person has got association that is having orange robe, or is a Swamiji, or is somebody a straight person. He will turn back and answer. But if he doesn't relate to any of these things, because the orange robe or a particular designation is only a title, it's only a Visheshaha. And what are we seeing? Vishesha Apoha Prakarana. So where we are removing the attributes. The very purpose of studying this text is to remove all the attributes and be attributeless. So you will not respond. When you are going on the road also, you will not respond because he is not talking to you. So the same way he says here that I started this journey as idam. So we started with idam and then we say aham, then aham idam sarvam. So by understanding idam, then understanding what aham, then I understood what sarvam is. Get my point? So you have to have a starting point somewhere. So one starts at some point and then you continue the journey for a long time. So you understand aham. So you add the word aham. Then you add idam. Oh, these are all the idams, etc. Then also physical body also is added to idam. Then in the wake of the study of the knowledge, etc., then you understand that all this sarvam, everything here is only Brahma. Right? So this is the culmination of the knowledge. So in the wake of the knowledge, the Mahavakyam describes the journey of the person. So the words itself doesn't indicate anything. The Mahavakyam is only a means, a method of recognition. The words indicate a particular method of unfolding or the Sampradaya method of teaching. That is why it says here, Bhuta Purva Gati Bhave. So I had the Ahankara in the beginning. So when I had the Ahankara in the beginning, see, without the Ahankara, you cannot start anything. See, you cannot say, I don't want to do anything. So I don't want, I want, also is Ahankara. I want to know myself. This is an Ahankara. So when you say, I want to know who I am, this is an Ahankara. And without having any Ahankara, you cannot do anything at all. You cannot. So Ahankara is required. That is why we always say that you cannot remove Ahankara. You cannot drop Ahankara. You cannot catch also. It is something to be understood and resolved. Even a Jnani also has got Ahankara. An ignorant person also got Ahankara. Everybody has got Ahankara. Nobody can say, I don't have an Ahankara at all. Even the word when you say, I don't have an Ahankara also is Ahankara. It's also thoughtfully. Because you are saying that I don't have an Ahankara. You don't want to have an Ahankara also is a definition of what you want to achieve. So I had the ahankara when I started studying this text. Right? And the teacher also, which is me, also is studying, is teaching with the ahankara of letting the knowledge go to that person. So there's a desire, there's a will. Right? Is important there. So if I had no ahankara, I would not be doing anything. I was just fitting something there. So it is very important to know this. So understanding this Bhuta Purva Gati Bhave, it is because of the past association, it indicates a journey from where I started. That is why we say here, Aham Idam Sarvam is Brahma. It is not because that we want to call it as Idam Brahmasmi or Aham Brahmasmi. It doesn't matter because Aham Idam is resolved in Sarvam. So whether I call Aham or I call Idam or I call Sarvam, all the three denote just me. So there is nothing else other than me which indicates any of these three. So this has to be, this is why the Purva Paksha sometimes can pick your words. They will exactly pick up what you have said. And they will be waiting to say, it looks genuine. See, the question is very, very correct. Why do you say this word as Aham Brahmasmi? Why can't you say Idam Brahmasmi? Because here he doesn't know Idam includes, doesn't know what Idam is. And he's only using the word just to pick on a particular thing. Had he known what Idam was, and had he known what Aham was, and had he known what Sarvam was, then all the three indicate only one indication called Brahman, correct? All of them. So whether you use this word or that word, what does it matter? It doesn't matter. For the person, Panditaha, it doesn't matter to him. But for Ajnani, it matters. Because he will say Aham, Idham, all the distinction will happen. So that's a very, so the last particular word, Bhuta Purva Gati Bhave, it is an indirect question by the Purva Paksha, which is being answered in this manner. Is this clear to you, this particular verse? Okay. So with this, we have concluded that particular topic called Vishesha Apoha Prakaranam. Now in chapter 7, we talk about Buddhihi Aruda Prakaranam. Buddhyaruda Prakaranam. Buddhyaruda Prakaranam. So I'll give you a summary today, then we'll actually go into the actual textual meanings next class. See, Buddhihi means intellect. Okay. And in this chapter, there are three things being discussed. Vishayaha, Buddhi and Atma. Vishayaha, Buddhi and Atma. Atma does not experience Vishayaha directly. Because Atma cannot talk. Atma being attributeless, Atma being without any limbs, etc., it cannot communicate directly. So it has to use a manifesting medium. So Atma has to, for it to manifest itself, it needs a manifesting medium. So the Buddhi is the manifesting medium. So it uses the Buddhi due to the Chidabhasaha. The association is Tadatmiyam, is natural association. Everything is experienced. And this experience is taken as belong to the Atma due to ignorance. So when I say I experience, when I say, one has to know from which standpoint you're talking about. Are you talking from the standpoint of the Upadhi, or are you talking from the standpoint of the Atma? So I enjoy, I experience. All of them are there. They are from the point of relative I, or the manifested medium, not the source itself. Also, at the same time, the intellect or the buddhi cannot experience anything without the Atma being present. See the beauty of it. Atma need not manifest itself. It can remain as unmanifest, like in deep sleep state. The Atma does not manifest itself because the manifesting medium is not available for perception. And in the waking state, the same Atma now is connected with the mind, and it illumines the entire Jagat, and all the transactions are taking place. In the dream state also, the Atma gets associated with the mind again, or half knowledge in Swapna Avastaha, and you again have the same experience, a different experience. Because again, the manifesting medium, the mind is still active, not fully active, but partially active. In the waking state, the mind is fully active. In the dream state, the mind is partially active, because that's why you're not very sure what's happening in the dream. And the dream state is something very, very different. It can change every day also. In the waking state, some things can be steady. You can see the same people, you can see the same person, same chair. Everything is possible because you can cognize, you can recollect, you can relate, you can compare. It's possible. But in a dream, you cannot do comparison. Can you do one thing? Can you say that today I'm going to dream about an elephant coming and stamping on my hand? Suppose some people have got the dream, of always a lion chasing somebody, or a snake coming and biting something, or some dream, weird dream. And they will always have this dream, but in different shades of experience. It is not the same lion will come. It will come in different form. One day it will be ferocious, second day you will be ferocious, all things happen. So there is always a variation happening. And that is because the mind itself is going through a flux. So buddhi arudaha means climbing or mounting. Arudam. So the buddhi climbs on to something and then it takes ownership of that particular thing. So buddhi arudaha. Right. This is a beautiful word Shankara has used to say that anything which is, when the buddhi climbs on to something, or the intellect holds on to something, that particular object in front is visible. Right? So for any object to be visible, including the physical body also, there has to be recognition, there has to be, the buddhi should be there. So intellect has to be present first, and it always identify objects in front, not at the back. Is it correct? The intellect will always identify objects which are always in the front of you and before. Anything not behind. Not behind the physical body. Don't take it that way. What it says here is that you have a camera which is there. And the camera's lens is always looking forward. Correct? So what does the camera do? The camera captures any objects or anything which is in the vicinity of the lens itself. Or the film, if you're using 100 ASA or 200 ASA or 400 ASA, depending upon the film type, it will capture the intensity, the colors, it will capture the subtleness of the object, correct? And it varies. It only captures in the front or within the radius. A camera cannot shoot back at you and say that it can also take pictures in the front of you. It's the same way, the example is given here, or it talks about how the intellect or the buddhi is the one which is climbing onto this, and then it illumines the objects. So buddhi aruda prakaranam is, in this the concept topic is the jiva paramatma aikyam, or the resolving of the intellect also in Brahma. So the intellect also is removed step by step, where the buddhi also is not anymore treated as a separate entity. Buddhi also resolved completely. Buddhi aruda buddhyaha aruda prakaranam. And he, in this bhashyam, he quotes from different Upanishads. You do not have the bhashyam, I know that, but I sometimes read this for my own understanding. He quotes from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse number, I think 40, verse number 40. Then he quotes from Brahmana Chintanam, which is also it is in the Kaivalya Upanishad also. So where how the Brahman pervades everything, and you are the one which is present in everything. So it quotes here, Mayyeva sakalam jhatam, Mayi sarvam pratisthitham. So Mayyeva sakalam jhatam. So I am the one which is present in pervading everything. Mayi sarvam pratisthitham. And the one who is also established, correct? Mayi sarvam layam yantihi. So Mayi sarvaha, I am the one also is the resolutor also, right? And aham brahmasmi. So I am the Brahma. So I am the person who is pervading everything. I am also the person present in every living and non-living objects, responsible for the protection and for the establishment of everything. Also I am present in the dissolution also. As what? Aham brahmasmi. So that is quoted in the Brahmana Chintanam, and he quotes in the Bhashyam here, which we'll see next class. I just wanted to give you an introduction to the text before. I haven't covered a few things here, but I will cover next class. We'll start with number 7. So have you got any questions in number 6, chapter 6? Have you got, or are you clear? Chapter 6. Okay. So we'll conclude the class here, and we will see next week. Okay. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Namaste.
Thank you, Pranam.